And there's so many aspects of moving through airports these days, or just going, you just want to go on holiday with your family. You just want to have a nice beachy holiday in Spain, and you have to crawl through some of these protocols, some of the things that don't make sense, some of these things that slow down your experience or indeed contaminate your experience of a holiday at the airport before you even get onto a plane. So I want to find out, let's make a list, the things that you would change about airports and the way they operate so that travelers, all of us, have a better experience of just getting away from that airport onto a plane and off to the holiday. 03030 80 55 55. Just give me one thing. You can text it as well, of course. 81771. What is infuriating you about airports? And let's see if we can work a way through how to fix the airport experience for all of us. Eoghan Corry is with us, historian, author, broadcaster, travel expert in lots of things, actually. Welcome on. Good to have you with us. Rob Staines is here as well, travel expert too. If you're on your TikTok and your YouTube, you'll have seen him. He's on TV a lot as well. Rob, good to have you on the program as well. Eoghan, give us one that really irritates you, first of all.
Good afternoon. I hope I can live up to that. Yeah, there's a reason I often think that the word terminal is pretty appropriate when you're going through an airport. You feel like people die there occasionally. I think everything in an airport, and it goes to airports all over Europe, and I go through an awful lot of airports. Very often there's very good things, but they're always in the wrong place. There is a method that modern-day travellers get through the airport. They like to get through security as quickly as possible. They like to get close to the gate as quickly as possible. I do think there's a huge problem. The seats are always too far away from the gate. The seats are in the wrong place. The places that people linger, the facilities for dining, and some of the airports think that they're shopping malls, and now some of them think they're grade A restaurants as well. Yeah. They tend to place those at the places that you end up having to do the 800-meter run, Olympic style, with a child under one arm and a bag under the other, and a huge distance to the gates. The gates are always a lot further away from than you estimate, and the facilities that should be down near the gates are very far away from them.
That is a big structural problem that you want fixed. That's not an easy fix, but it would improve everybody's experience. Rob, do you agree with that? Do you share the same problems there?
Yeah, I would completely agree with Eoghan there. Basically, I think my biggest gripe with airports is actually the layout of airports. Yeah. They are confusing. They're badly signposted. They don't fly. If anyone has a connection, getting a flight to another destination through a hub airport, it can be very, very confusing as well. And actually, I just think, airports are badly designed. But part of that reason is probably because the way we travel has definitely changed over the years. Airports are more busier than they used to be. Then there's lots of reasons why airports are quite sort of antiquated sometimes in their designs and layouts. But there are some great airports around the world that actually you feel like they're taking you on the journey and you don't have to think about it. But I think one of the things that really gets me is how often I get lost in an airport, and I travel in a professional and a personal, and my personal life as well, a hell of a lot, and I get lost a lot in lots of different airports around the world, and it really gets me, especially at a time when it's a stressful environment. They're always busy, and time is of the essence, because let's face it, planes do not wait.
Keith has a proposal here. Well, it's more of a question, Keith. I get it, and thank you for it. It's a good question. I think many of us have had the same question. Let's put it to our guys and see if they have some answers here. Keith says, Eoghan, when you're going through transit security checks, right, you get off one plane, you're heading for a connecting flight, and sometimes, but not always, depending on the airport, you have to go through security again. Why?
Because they don't trust each other. It's a major problem in Heathrow. You get photographed, you come off one flight, you go through a big security thing, you get photographed, and then very often you have a second security one at the gate. Airports in Europe and airports in America look askance at other people's systems and say, okay, you're coming from an airport I don't trust, we're going to have to check you again. Sometimes they put you through immigration, and that is a major issue. For instance, in America, where they not only put you through immigration, but they also ask for an ESTA if you're transferring to another place outside of the United States. It happens in Canada as well with the ETA. There was a question of it happening with Heathrow, but they seem to have glossed over that. It's a little unexpected surprise for people when they're transferring through airports that it's not as clean as it should be. You get off one aircraft, get on another, you've already been through security. What's all the fuss about?
What on earth? Why are we doing this? And Rob, that's a very interesting explanation. They just don't trust each other. But surely we have international standards that all airports are required to follow, no?
Yeah, we do have international standards. And actually, so airports, this is where it gets really confusing because different countries a lot of the time have different rules. Yes, we have international standards. But for example, a couple of years ago, I was flying through, I think it was Oslo, and I was connecting onto a flight to Asia. And I literally just walked off my plane and walked to the next gate. And that was it. And I was on a plane. And it was the most easiest connection I had ever done. And it was revolutionary. But I've done connections in places like the States, for example, where I've landed into the States. I can be flying off on a same airline or even a codeshare partner, and I've actually then been told that I actually have to go through immigration, collect my baggage at the baggage belt, and then go through that whole process all over again just to go on a connecting flight. So it's really confusing, and actually it just adds layers of complexity onto what is already quite a complex journey.
It's stressful. You don't need that stress when you're trying to get off on a holiday somewhere. Got one here from Andrew. Andrew wants better seats at the airports. He thinks that we're sitting on what feels like hard shelving, Eoghan, with metal strips separating us, giving us the effect of being like animals in crates.
And he didn't get the one with the chewing gum stuck on it.
Exactly.
The airports tell me all the time they're doing better seating. You get these angled seats, and Charles de Gaulle brought them in Terminal 2E a couple of years ago. Dublin Airport is putting in 1,000 new seats, 450 down at the gates, and they're telling me they're getting better, and there's a big investment in Belfast International as well. The reality is that there's never enough of them as well.
That's right.
You have 189, your standard Ryanair 737-800, 189 seats. The newer ones have 197. The A320 family, which most of the other airlines use, it's got 180. There are never more than 60 seats at the gate. Somebody should learn to count. Work it all out in your heads, guys. You've got bags, you've got elderly people, you've got children wandering around. All of those things have to be catered for at the gate, not 800 metres from the gate back at the terminal.
Is it too much? Maybe it is, Rob, but is it too much to expect that an airport, any airport, would have a rule that you can only take as many people into the airport as you have seats for?
Well, actually, that would be a great rule. But I think if we had rules like that coming in, we'd actually have no room to move in airports if we had enough seats for everyone in there. But there are parts of the world, for example, if you go to India, you are only allowed to go through the airport if you actually have a ticket. You cannot even go into the main area of the airport unless you have a ticket. So it really depends on the rules of the country. But absolutely, why are seats so uncomfortable, and why is there so many people sat on the floor? And I think we've also got to think about those, if you're able-bodied, for example, it's hard enough getting through in an airport and it's exhausting enough as it is. However, if you have accessibility needs, that's even more reason why we should actually have, much better facilities in airports to actually, be able to serve people. Because let's face it, travel is... It's a wonderful thing. It's joyous, and it's a privilege to be able to travel. But actually, does it really need to be as uncomfortable? Does it really need to be as stressful, as it already is?
And Eoghan, here's this. I don't know if it's true for you guys, but it seems to be the case that airports in Asia, the big ones, like Singapore Airport or Bangkok Airport, they just do it better. They're cleaner, they're lovely spaces, and they're better seats.
They do, because they were properly designed. Changi Airport wins awards all the time. It's a terrific airport. It's got fantastic facilities. You can actually go outside while staying in the security zone. You can actually get outside into a garden area. They have a swimming pool. They have all of those things. I think if people were designing Europe's airports, and all right across Europe, the big ones that we transferred through Heathrow, Frankfurt, Charles de Gaulle, Amsterdam, they all were built. They're all of an age. the one thing that really massively changed, and it changed in the late 90s, early 90s, is that a lot of the action, the feeding, the seating, all of that took place on the land side, because there was sort of this tradition: people came to meet their aunts and uncles at the airport, and people lingered for longer before they went through airport security to airside. What I see repeatedly at airports is a lot of wasted space on the land side and a real shortage of space on the air side. Very difficult, because walls have to be knocked, structures, the security has to be realigned. I think that's the biggest single problem that's haunting European airports, and haunting not just the airports, but causing immense discomfiture for the passengers that we're here listening to.
And you mentioned Changi, that's the airport in Singapore. I mean, it's the best airport I've ever been in. And if you ever get stuck in an airport and have to spend a long time at an airport, you better hope it's Singapore, because you will never run out of things to do and see. Museum pieces, art pieces. It's just an extraordinary airport. 03030 80 55 55. Few calls on the line. We have David. Hi, David from Hillsborough.
Hi, William. I've got to say I couldn't agree more with your experience of Wang Yi in Singapore.
Is that how it's pronounced? Wang Yi?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I call it Changi.
I travel frequently on business in that part of the world, and I've got to say the one other place perhaps I'd prefer to fly in and out of is Suvarnabhumi in Thailand, for the simple reason that
that's
over
the big
70s
Bangkok airport.
And over 70, that over 70s can go through all the priority gates without having to be travelling first class, whatever.
There's great reverence for older people.
There's a reverence for older people, but it seems to me that it's also it helps in a practical sense. It reduces the length of lines on the. Given that many elderly people, older or elderly people, travel these days when they have perhaps the wherewithal and the opportunity.
But of course, David, they also give special treatment. They give special treatment to Buddhist priests in that culture going through airports. Special seating set aside for them, white seats that you can sit on. Were you ever not tempted to go and get yourself, maybe off the internet, some saffron robes and pretend to be a Buddhist priest just to get through the airport in a better way?
No, but it's a good point.
You might have to shave your head, my friend. I'm sorry about that.
I have personal experience in that. At one time in Thailand, I, for whatever reason, was inflicted by a serious virus that threatened to take away my sight.
Oh, goodness.
And when I went to the airport in Bangkok, to the hospital for an urgent scan, the two people in front of me were Buddhist monks, both of whom insisted that they stand aside, take their turn, and let me go first through the scanner. Fortunately, my sight wasn't lost in the end, but yes, I've always had a particular reverence for the men in saffron since then.
Oh, geez, thank you very much. That's quite a story, isn't it? Frank's in Culabaki. How you doing, Frank?
Hello, William. I think I met you sometime in the past.
Was it at an airport?
No, it wasn't.
All right.
The reason that I'm ringing up about this is that the cheap airlines, you know that when you go out onto the tarmac, you have to go out in the rain or all weathers and up and down the steps, either to get on the plane or get off it. And of course, there's some people who would have difficulty with the walking, but there's other airports where they have this nice corridor, which they drive out to the entrance to the plane. So you're really just walking along the corridor and stepping straight off the corridor onto the plane. And
yes.
That would be a great job, because no matter what the weather was like outside, you're not going to get wet or anything snowed on or anything.
No, I get it. You know, it also annoys me, Frank, and I do the Manchester route because I present on Radio 4 and I go to Manchester a lot, and I'm always on like EasyJet or something like that, and You get off the plane and there's a bus waiting for you to take you to the terminal. You know, it's not like one of those big American, like DC airports where they've got the people eaters that come up to the side of the plane. You get onto it and it drives you over to the terminal. You have to actually get on a plane. It feels like you're waiting for the bus to arrive, and it can be raining on top of you while all of that is happening. I know, of course, that's why they do it. It's probably a cheaper location. Correct me if I'm wrong, Eoghan. It's a cheaper location for, say, EasyJet to be at that part of the airport rather than paying more to have the plane arrive at the terminal where you're going to go to.
Pretty much on the button. I mean, there's never enough air bridges to actually handle the traffic. Belfast International would have 7 of them, which is great later in the day. But when that pinch point comes early in the morning, they just don't have enough. They charge the airlines less. There's also another factor which is really important for the business plan of both Ryanair and EasyJet. They're slower to load and unload. A Ryanair aircraft works really hard for a living. It's like Saturday's Child. It takes off and lands 6 times a day. They like doing it at locations where the passengers are bussed. It's a bit longer for the passengers.
I hate it.
It's shorter for the aircraft. They get everyone off and they get everyone on a lot quicker than they do through air bridges.
It's so counterintuitive, though. When you arrive, you want to get off the plane. You don't want to go now and queue for a bus.
Indeed, and sometimes the bus journey takes 15, 20 minutes. I mean, you could go round Charles de Gaulle, I itemised earlier, and some of those bus journeys are nearly as long as the flight. But from the airline point of view, they like it. In fact, Ryanair have resisted airports. Alicante being an example that wanted all their aircraft brought into air bridges because it delayed the turnaround time. Airlines like it, passengers hate it.
Do you know, Rob, the most common complaint that I can see on my screen here in front of me, lots of people sending their complaints about things that annoy them. Brian Portadown captures it, but lots of other people saying the same thing. Why are we made to stand in stairwells after you're called to the gate? Don't call us until you're ready to board us. What? I mean, you've been here many times, right? You're winding your way down a stairwell, waiting for something to happen.
Absolutely, and you know, you see on that board as well, final call, and you then get to the airport gate, and no, it's never the final call. I'm sure they just do it to stress us out just a little bit more. But you get to the gate, and there's not even a check-in agent or a gate agent waiting there for you at that point. So yeah, and I totally understand as well. Standing in stairwells is particularly uncomfortable. Though I thought there was still a slight air of glamour when it comes to air travel, but actually when you're standing in the stairwell, that those days have gone.
Rob, do you interpret when you see final call? Do you interpret that to mean final orders?
Yeah, I mean, I would always go by the rules of the airport or the airline that you're travelling with. Always. Never, ever play chicken when it comes to an airline.
You're a good boy. You never go back to the bar when you see final call. Of course not. Frank, what about you? What about you?
Gate closing, that's the one.
That's the one to look out for. Gate closing,
and that means you've still got 12 minutes. You might get another drink in, but you are pushing it at that stage.
I've got to have a drink. They're too expensive. That's another
never drink at an airport. That's the way to go bankrupt. Eoghan, the screening machines that are changing, we've got them changed now at the Belfast airports, at City Airport and at the International, so that you don't have to pull out your toothpaste as long as it's within the 75. What is it, milliliters or CL? What I don't know what they call it. But you don't have to pull out your stuff anymore. That's a revolution, people say. That's really transformative.
It's a revolution when they are allowed to use it. We brought them in last September, and then they told us that, again, this was back to trusting each other. There was a row between Europe and America. America came in with this, that everybody with more than 50 mils would have to take them out of the bag again, because there was some question with the screening, not with the 75, the standard wine bottle, whiskey bottle that we have, but the very large 2-litre liquids. They were worried that they weren't being screened enough. And we are still waiting. We're supposed to get it in July, actually. We're supposed to get it this week, clearance that we can leave the liquids in when we're going through the new scanners. They're marvellous. As you say, Belfast has them. Dublin Terminal 2 has them. The rest of Dublin will have it in October. In the meantime, people going through Dublin Terminal 1, just think of Beyonce to the left. That's where the new scanners are. Wow. The old ones are still a little bit to the right on the Terminal 1. That's
go left. Always go left.
Always go left. But It will be great when the new scanners are allowed to their maximum, and it takes that question out of the laptop, the laptop coming out of the bag. It increases the speed going through security.
Yeah.
It can be down to less than 2 passengers a minute, particularly in winter when everyone's got coats. It brings it up to 6 or 7.
That's great.
It's a big, big difference.
That's great. I really enjoy going through Dublin Airport because you can get through it so quickly. They've got so many of these scanning points, you don't find yourself in a glut with 400 people. At least I don't. I regularly get through very quickly. Like 5 minutes after I arrive, I'm through. And you're off doing a bit of shopping or having something to eat, whatever it is. It's great. What's your favourite airport in the world, Rob?
Oh gosh, I mean, I love airports. I'm one of those strange people that love airports. No matter how much we're talking about how annoying they are, I love them. I think my favourite airport in the world is probably Mumbai Airport, Shivaji Chhatrapati Terminal in Mumbai. It's absolutely beautiful. It has really good layout. It's really easy to walk around. It takes you on the journey rather than you having to navigate it yourself. It's bright, it's airy, it's got, beautiful art that really gives you a sense of, that you really are in India. It really celebrates Indian heritage. It's got beautiful flora and fauna. And one of my favourite things about that airport, actually, and this is another gripe of mine, is that airports that don't have views of the runway or the planes that you're going to be getting on. I want to see the planes on them at the airport. That is part of the excitement. Yeah. And when you go to Mumbai, you can see absolutely everything. You can see them take off, you can see them land, you can sit and have a nice masala chai as you do doing so. It's a great airport, and it's most importantly as well, it is super, super clean.
Someone here complaining, and I don't think you're the only one complaining about this, about how people with disabilities are just not catered for as well as they should be. If you're not on a wheelchair, you are forgotten. For example, standing in queues, standing in stairwells, you're just forgotten. So the rest of us are complaining about having to stand in the stairwells, and someone in a wheelchair is almost like wondering, why am I not with you? They've completely forgotten me. I knew that Rob would go for an Asian airport. Owen, what's your favourite?
Well, I just itemised Singapore, but if you're going through Europe, there, of the big four, Amsterdam, it's, it has its problems, but it is the easiest of the big four to transfer through.
It's a lovely airport.
Compared
it's
with
so
Frankfurt
well connected for the
Paris.
trains as well. Just go down the escalator and these double trains.
That's the thing they do in mainland Europe that
really
we're not great at. Great train connections. Helsinki is a lovely connection. Before the war, it was a great connection to Japan. I did it quite a few times. 45 minutes getting through. Right. Most airports require at least an hour and 10 minutes. Heathrow demands an hour and a half because, again, as Rob says, it's quite complicated to get through. Right. And I also like Copenhagen as a connection. There are good ones, there are bad ones, but sometimes a good airport can have a bad day. You're really can be caught.
One word answer, please, Rob. The worst airport you've ever been in?
Oh, Atlanta.
Owen?
I think Heathrow ranks pretty much up there.
All right, thank you very much, Owen and Rob. That's it from us. Here's Hugo.